eyelashes still on? We're fine.
Hello and welcome to What's with People with Doc Locke. I'm Dr. Stephanie Lockbeeler, social psychologist and potty-mouthed professor.
The goal of these videos is to give mini lessons on phenomena, theories, and topics in social psychology, which is the scientific study of the way that people think about, influence, and relate to others. Or, in other words, it's the science of
why the fuck are people like that?
This video is all about the question, what's with people saying laughter is contagious? I thought COVID was the only thing that was contagious. Get out of here.
What's the science behind stand-up comedy?
If you've ever been to a live comedy show, you know how it works. There's an audience that wants to laugh, and there's a person talking into a microphone saying shit to try and make the audience laugh.
It's great. Thank you.
But ask any comedian and they will tell you that it's not that simple.
Right?
There are many factors that can affect the way that a show can go and whether the laughs will flow as easily as they may want. And most of those factors, you guessed it, are social factors. That's because humor and laughter is primarily a social phenomenon. Now, research shows that people laugh and make jokes much more often when they're with other people than when they're alone. Even when we do laugh by ourselves, it's usually in what are considered pseudo-social or social-like situations, like reading memes posted by others, or remembering funny shit that happened with other people, or watching shows or videos about people. Like these videos, right? Now, humor is considered a form of play that humans enjoy in a general sense, but it's also just a great way to escape. Most of the world in our everyday existence has a lot of seriousness to it. So humor is a great way to briefly break away from the weightiness of the world. So poetic of me. But humor has a lot of social functions too. We know from previous videos that we need people to survive. Damn, Doc Locke. Back at it again with the social exclusion bit. And humor is often used as a way to boost relationships with others. So for example, we know that people often have different perceptions of reality, which can obviously lead to clashes and arguments. But researchers say that humor is a way for humans to communicate in a way that celebrates and embraces those differences, which helps people to deal with what would normally be kind of difficult or awkward social situations. Now think of when you strongly disagree with someone. Like, yeah, you can get into endless arguments with your crazy uncle at holiday dinners and get pissed off at each other, or you can diffuse the situation with joking and playful teasing, which acknowledges the conflict but also lightens the situation and is less likely to ruin a relationship. Research also shows that humor can help us to figure out whether people share our feelings or ideas in a non-threatening manner, like a topic that's normally kind of sensitive, like sex jokes. There's a reason why they say not to talk about sex, because talking seriously about it is kind of scary and sensitive to most people. It can lead to misunderstanding or worse, rejection. So using humor to discuss this vulnerable topic can help us to express ideas and thoughts about it without the risk of feeling like a complete fucking idiot.
Like, take this joke.
I'm really bad at dirty talk in bed. I was with this guy, he's like, all you gotta do is just be more vocal in bed so I can know when you're enjoying it. So the next time we were having sex, I was like, okay, all right.
This joke is taking an insecurity about sex and making it less awkward than if I were to just stand in front of people and say, hi, my name is Stephanie and I'm bad at vocalizing my pleasure during sexual intercourse. Do you share this perspective as well? This also shows how humor can be used to self-disclose preferences or experiences or questions or interests in a way that's safer, because you can always fall back on the old, I was just kidding approach. So joking about sensitive and vulnerable topics helps us to face embarrassment, and then the laughter that we receive normalizes it.
You fucking know. You know.
It can also help to probe others to see how they react to various attitudes and beliefs. Like telling sex jokes or offensive jokes or religious or political jokes can give the joke teller and others that are listening an idea of how much those views are tolerated or shared by other people listening. Like this joke.
I do find that road rage is a very universal thing. For example, I accidentally cut off a priest in traffic, and he yelled out the window, "Fuck you!" And I yelled back, "And also with you."
With that joke, you get to find out very quickly who else has been to a Catholic Mass. It can also be used as a way to test or even violate social norms. By making fun of certain ways of thinking, feeling, or acting, and then eliciting laughter from others, we're expressing how those ways of thinking are not acceptable or are bad.
This type of humor can maybe help to show others how not to act, like making fun of Karens or racists or assholes. But it can also be used to promote bad behaviors, like making fun of minorities or stigmatized groups.
Now, all of this shows how humor is a social activity, and the art of stand-up comedy is obviously no exception. I mean, really, stand-up comedy doesn't get more social psychologically.
Is that a word?
It's a word now. The definition of social psychology is the science of how people influence people. And comedy is a person using humor to influence a bunch of people or an audience, if you're lucky, to laugh. There's research on crowd or mob behavior that's particularly useful in thinking about stand-up comedy audiences because both are a crowd of people who have a motivation and goal. Now, most of the research on crowds and mobs focuses on negative behaviors, like a mob that engages in destructive or criminal behavior, but obviously not all crowds are volatile in nature, and there are some fundamental similarities between mobs and audiences that definitely apply. The first is how both a mob and an audience are perceived more as a single object or entity rather than a bunch of individual people. Now, many stand-up comedians will make remarks about audiences that characterize them as a single object that reacts as a whole, and often based on the responses that they received during the show. For example, stand-up comics will often talk to each other and ask each other things about the audience, like, how's the audience? Or, is the crowd warmed up? Or, after a show, they'll be like, what a great audience! Or, that crowd was stiff. Stiff. Penis. These beliefs and statements support the idea that crowds are seen as an entity, but in reality, an audience is a group of individuals who influence and are influenced by one another and tend to act similar. That leads to the second similarity between mobs and audiences, which is how mobs and audiences really seem to react as a whole, and how behavior and emotions spread quickly throughout the individual members. This is because of the social psychological phenomenon called contagion, which is how the behavior or emotions of people can spread very quickly throughout a group. COVID. Literally.
Like I mentioned earlier, most research regarding contagion focuses on mob behavior or how negative emotions are spread throughout a crowd. However, many studies have investigated how laughter is contagious and spreads through a crowd just by the sound of it.
For example, research has found that being exposed to humorous material in the presence of a laughing person makes us much more likely to laugh than if the other person isn't laughing or if we're alone. It's also been found that hearing group laughter in response to humorous material elicits more laughter from participants than if they did not hear any laughter. That's why canned laughter is a thing.
I'll be here all week. Even cooler, there's brain studies that have shown that the sounds of laughter from others activates a type of laughter response part of the brain full of specialized neurons called mirror neurons that causes the listener to laugh as well.
In fact, just the sound of laughter without any humorous material is enough to trigger laughter in most people. Terrible. But the strongest laughter contagion response occurs with a lot of people. The larger the audience, the louder the laughter, and the more likely people will be influenced by that sound of laughter. Hence, a comedy audience. One of the main explanations for contagion and the effect of laughter on others is social facilitation. This phenomenon proposes that the mere presence or the imagined presence of people in social situations generates a feeling of evaluation that ends up having an impact on our behavior. While this theory was originally about how people tend to perform better on simple tasks like running or biking or reeling in a fishing rod while in the presence of others, It's also been described as an explanation for many behaviors in social situations. One theory, like the drive theory, suggests that there's a physiological arousal that results from the presence of other people.
And this is why we rarely laugh on our own. The presence of others influence us to laugh more because of the heightened energy levels that we're experiencing. Another theory behind social facilitation is the evaluation approach.
This perspective claims that social facilitation is not just explained by the activation of physiological arousal, but that it's the fear of being evaluated which is what causes the arousal. Arousal. Penis.
Now, as I mentioned before, hearing someone else laugh influences our own laughter, but also seeing others not laugh influences us to not laugh. Laugh, damn it!
So, while responses are amplified by the presence of others, laughter can also be inhibited by the presence of other people if the other people are not laughing. For example, if the people around an audience member are not laughing, the audience member may feel self-conscious due to that fear of evaluation, and therefore they're less likely to laugh. This goes back to the idea that audiences often behave and are perceived as a single entity because they tend to kind of act the same as each other. Jeez, tough crowd.
Now, one way to reduce this social inhibition is through the consumption of alcohol. Shots, 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 shots.
Everybody, drink responsibly.
Alcohol has been known to lessen these fears of evaluation, and this reduction in inhibition can encourage laughter even if the others around you are not laughing. In fact, many comedy clubs require a 2-drink minimum, mostly for financial reasons, but also to encourage laughter by decreasing that fear of evaluation, which can then increase the laughter despite what everyone else is doing, and then it's more likely to spread throughout the crowd.
But more laughter isn't the only benefit to contagion.
Research has also demonstrated that when people laugh more as a result of hearing others laugh, they also then rate the humorous material as being funnier.
Researchers believe that the reason why they find the material funnier is because the participants' laughter made them kind of search for humor in the material in order to explain their own responses.
Why did I laugh again? Oh, okay.
So, alcohol helps to increase laughter, which then promotes laughter contagion, which then influences how funny people find the jokes to be, and then increases their overall enjoyment of the show. Cha-ching! Now, alcohol isn't the only thing a comedy club uses to help facilitate laughter based on what we know about how contagion works. The way the audience is laid out is also very, very important. We know that being in the presence of others increases response contagion, but a big part of that is whether you can easily see and hear others' reactions in order to be influenced by them.
For example, another study found that the closeness or the density of an audience greatly influenced laughter, and in turn, how funny they found the material.
In this study, they had 3 participants watch humorous material either in a small room, so they were closer together, or a large room, so they were further apart. And the participants in the high density or the close condition, they ended up looking at each other more often, they laughed more often, and therefore they found the jokes to be funnier than those in the low density or the not close condition. In other words, when people are closer to one another, they're more able to see the others around them, to see what their reactions are, and be influenced by those reactions. So it makes sense to keep audience members in close proximity to each other to increase the likelihood of contagion. And I mean laughter contagion, not coronavirus contagion. But think about it. The new COVID-19 pandemic world that we're living in really fucks this shit up, right? Not only do we got to keep people distant from each other, but we also got to be wearing masks, which muffles the sound of laughter and hides smiles and expressions of enjoyment. All of this clearly has a negative impact on laughter contagion, which for comedians and club owners, that really sucks. But it also has a very big impact on viral contagion, which is, without a doubt, way more fucking important. So wear your mask, stay the fuck away from people. I love you. Laugh a lot. Go team. I don't know what the fuck that was.
Love you.
And being a teacher is great. There's a lot of great things about it, but there's a lot of gross things too. Like I gotta help them blow their nose, help them wipe their ass. But it is really rewarding being a professor at IU. It's just... Great. Thank you.
Talking like a poo-pooish. Hi. Alcohol.